Hey everybody, so being mean about Black Mirror is kind of a tradition on this channel, one that I value very highly. Recently, the new season came out after a few years of waiting, and while there were episodes this season that I did quite like, and we will talk about them, I was frankly relieved to find that many of them were pretty dang bad. That while the highs are fairly high, the lows are devastating. I hope you sit back and enjoy while I talk about my favorite thing to hate watch, new episodes of Black Mirror. Spoilers for all of Season 6, by the way. I'm gonna ruin it for you. I'm not just gonna ruin it for you by telling you everything that happens, I'm gonna make you hate it. Okay, let's talk about Loch Henry, the second episode of the season. Loch Henry is about a couple, Davis and Pia, who are trying to make a true crime documentary about a spree of serial murders that happened in Davis's hometown. And as it turns out, oh shit, the protagonist's mom was one of the serial killers all along. So I don't like Loch Henry all that much, and honestly, that's mostly just because there's nothing really in it to enjoy for me. It's really slow, like I'm not sure what I'm supposed to get out of this documentary making sequence or why it had to be so much of the episode. I found the characters really one-dimensional and boring. Pia in particular feels more like a caricature of an annoying faux progressive lib than she does a person.
I mean, it's a story. It's an actual story.
Are you serious?
Well, yeah.
But we're meeting the egg guy on Wednesday.
Oh, fuck the egg guy. I'm sorry. Come on. Come on.
And I found her death in the final act to be just extremely lazy writing. Fucking oops. And the plot just isn't Black Mirror-y at all. There's no interesting high-concept premise or technology to explore. It's genuinely just a very conventional horror film about people making a true crime documentary, and it's a pretty bad one at that. What I find most interesting about this episode, though, is its ending. So after the events of the episode, there's a time skip. The protagonist wins an award for his true crime documentary about his murderous mother and dead girlfriend, and there's a few things the episode does to make us feel uncomfortable. For one, the trophy the protagonist wins is a mask, evoking the mask his mother wore as she tortured and murdered people. And in the last moment, we see that before his mother hanged herself, she collected the tapes of her murders for him and wrote the note, "For your film." These final touches make a very obvious point. There is a connection between the mother, someone who made a film of her gratuitously exploiting people for her entertainment, and the protagonist, who made a film that gratuitously exploits those same people for the world's entertainment. This point is, you might argue, well placed. There is something exploitative about true crime, about the way it turns people and their tragedies into entertainment. But here's my issue, the episode just does a really poor job communicating these problems with any kind of clarity. See, when I think about issues with true crime, a number of obvious things pop into my head. There is an incentive on the part of true crime creators to obscure information in the name of telling a better story. There is a tendency to jump to conclusions, pretend you're a detective, and make claims you have little evidence for. Pseudoscience abounds in true crime. There's often an emphasis on lie detector tests, body language, and vibes. But none of these things actually apply to the situation. The protagonist does a plainly good job with his movie. He does normal investigative journalism. He doesn't lie and doesn't really sensationalize anything. Besides that, he solves an unsolved crime, genuinely adds knowledge to the world. Yes, he goes against the wishes of this one older guy, but he had these objections largely because he was worried they'd find evidence of the actual criminals.
You have to stop your film. Why?
And I'm not sure objections like that deserve to be honored. In any case, he is in the final documentary, so it seems like his moral issues have been resolved by the end. In other words, I don't think the episode does what it sets out to do. It wants to make this big thematic statement about the world of true crime, but it's unwilling to make that point comprehensible or meaningful to the audience. So, in the end, the connections between the protagonist and his murderous mother just feel misplaced and mean-spirited. If the only thing I'm supposed to take away is, wow, both psychopathic murderers and true crime producers turn suffering into entertainment, I guess I just find that extremely vapid. I was going to end my section on this episode here, but I wanted to take this opportunity to make a point, one that may be obvious to many of you, but which I still think is valuable. A question might occur to you while watching this video: why is Big Joel so weirdly obsessed with the themes of Black Mirror? Why is it such an emphasis here when obviously media is so much more than the ideas it expresses? It's a good question, I think. After all, I'm not watching Black Mirror primarily because it's profound, because it gives me new, important insights on the world. I don't care that much about true crime or about why people might dislike true crime, so why is the episode's treatment of it so important to me? And the answer is, I think, a tiny bit tricky. The reason I care so much about the end of an episode of Black Mirror, about the way its themes culminate, is quite similar to the reason I care how a whodunit ends, the way the detective solves his case. The end of a whodunit is the point at which the show reflects on itself. It takes elements that may appear chaotic or unrelated and shows us how they all tie together. It rewards the audience's attention and engagement and makes them feel the experience was intentional, that there was no aspect of the work that wasted their time. Here, we see the problem with Loch Henry, and it's not really that it's too vapid or that the point it makes is bad. No, the problem is that it doesn't pay off. The episode has all these elements, right? The slightly immoral coded girlfriend who wants to get famous off a true crime documentary. The guy who's familiar with the crime and wants it to not be investigated. The malignant serial killer mother. But these elements don't come together. They don't make a point or say anything. And in the absence of that, the episode fakes it. Fakes a conclusion. Wow, isn't it deep that both the protagonist and his evil mom made videos about people who were killed? Isn't that impactful? But no, it isn't. It doesn't come from anywhere. It's not earned in any way. It's just a random twist of a knife that feels like it exists only because the episode needed an ending and couldn't really think of one, where the murderer is a random guy we've never met. Oh my god, I didn't realize that you were all at the beach with me. Let's talk about Beyond the Sea. My guess is that this is going to be the most controversial section of this video because I can imagine that some people really like it. The plot is kind of interesting. It has Aaron Paul. And for these two reasons, people may have enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it though. I actually thought the episode was strikingly bad. Beyond the Sea is about two astronauts who are presumably doing some nasty stuff in space. Their real bodies are in the cosmos, but they both have digital robot selves they can project their consciousnesses into. Everything's going great, but then one of the astronauts, Dave, has his wife murdered by some freaks who hate robots.
A man sleeps in the sky while his mechanical image walks the earth, and you share your bed with this abomination?
Episode about this guy, please. Give me the robot-hating Jesus lover. To help him deal with the grief, the other astronaut, Cliff, lets him use his robot.
Would you like that? I think I'd like that very much.
And Dave, in his Cliff robot body, courts and tries to have sex with Cliff's wife, Lana.
He won't know.
In the end, Lana rejects these advances and Dave murders her and her son. So my first problem here, and I know I sound like a broken record, is that I thought the episode was just very, very boring. Beyond the Sea is an hour and 20 minutes long, a short feature-length film, and I don't think it used that space economically. Over the course of its runtime, the characters don't really become more interesting, they don't have engaging conversations. It feels like 80 minutes of dour, blank, annoying characters sitting quietly and yearning for each other. It's not my kind of thing. I would vastly prefer a 30-minute version of this episode, and I don't know why that's too much to ask. Just cut everything out of your episode. Make it so much shorter, why not? But with that in mind, let's turn our attention to the themes of the episode, the way it explores its own ideas, because there is something intricate and complicated about Beyond the Sea. So this episode is, at its core, about disposability. These two men have robot equivalents. Their Earth bodies are machines, and if those machines die, the person lives on. They are, in a very real sense, disposable. But by the end of the story, the episode episode complicates this idea. In the very first scene, Dave dances with and has hand sex with his wife. I feel like I need to point something out here. Is the only word for manually stimulating a woman fingering? Is that actually correct? Because I'm not gonna say fingering in a YouTube video and pretend like that's normal and doesn't make me sound like a 12-year-old. I feel like there needs to be a better word. I came up with hand sex. Anyway, later on, after Dave's wife is murdered and he's in Cliff's body, he comes on to Lana and does so in the exact same way he came on to his late wife.
He plays the song Beyond the Sea in both scenes as well, which both cements how similarly he's approaching these two situations and tells us as an audience that this similarity is important, right? It's the name of the episode.
In this moment, the audience is forced to consider a possibility that Dave and his robotic form are not the disposable ones, that instead his wife is and Lana is. He lost the former and moves on to the latter, and he wants to treat the two women identically, as though they are interchangeable robots. And when you see this theme, you can notice it in a few places. You can see it in the way Cliff talks about his family. When he's upset that Dave seems infatuated with his wife, the one thing he says over and over is,
My wife! You fucking creep! My wife! Mine!
She's mine. She belongs to me. That is, for much of the episode, Cliff sees his wife not primarily as a person, but as a possession to be safeguarded. You can see it toward the middle of the episode, when Cliff's son annoys Dave and he slaps the boy in the face. Lana is outraged by this, but Cliff doesn't seem to mind. He beats the kid all the time, and this is the kind of power that can be delegated.
He hit him,
He gave him a little smack upside the head.
which, as far as Henry knows, was from you.
Nothing I haven't done myself 100 times. You know Henry can be a terror. Remember when he burned a hole in the car seat? I wailed on him plenty, right here in this room. The boy needs keeping in line.
The child doesn't exist as a person within Cliff's imagination, but as an object who can be treated however men want to treat him. Finally, you can see it in the end, when Dave kills Lana and her son. The whole episode is about this lengthy romance. Will Lana fall in love with Dave? Does Dave give Lana what Cliff cannot? But in the end, this is all an illusion. Dave doesn't love Lana. You can't love someone, cherish someone who you're willing to murder for no reason. No, Lana exists only as a prop within the male psyche to be used and disposed of at her owner's convenience. It's simple. Dave's wife was killed, so Lana can be killed. This is kind of the twist of Beyond the Sea, right? In one of the last scenes of the episode, Cliff finally talks to his wife. He shares some emotion with her, treats her as a real person with real needs.
You brought me here, put me in this house. Now I just walk from room to room, and you walk from room to room, but you're a shadow, and I am here, I am real.
But this all comes too late, because right next to the moment Lana is treated as valuable, she's thrust right back into the realm of disposability, murdered by Dave. So, yes, I think Beyond the Sea is about patriarchy, about a system that privileges male experience and jealousy and desire, and that treats women as objectified means to an end. There are other ways you could of course read it, but I do think this is the most interesting and charitable way, and that it's supported by the text. It's of course not a coincidence that the episode takes place in 1969, when patriarchy was even more codified and explicit than it is today. But, okay, does my read of the episode make it good for me? I don't really think so. For one thing, I just don't think it sticks the landing. Like, sure, it's a story about patriarchy, but it doesn't really challenge its own logic. It's notable at the end of the episode that Lana and the kid dying are never framed as bad in their own right. We don't see their suffering, and we're not really put in a position to care about their deaths. Rather, the loss is processed only through Cliff. It's his loss, his tragic ending. You can say that's part of the point, that even when these people are murdered, they are still only given meaning through the male lens, but it just doesn't play for me. The end of the episode doesn't feel like it's getting at that point, doesn't feel like it challenges these men and the position they have. It feels basically like it's played straight, that we're supposed to see the protagonist and his loss as the episode's ultimate twist, that I am supposed to take this framing seriously. And I don't take it seriously.
But also, leaving all this theme stuff aside, you just can't theme your way out of boring storytelling.
When you're not interested by any of the characters or by anything they do, when you think the love triangle is dull and don't care what happens with it, when you think the material is bloated, you're probably not going to enjoy the episode, regardless of things you can say about its themes.
So, Demon 79 is, I think, the best episode of the season.
It's about a woman, Nita, who gets chosen by a demon to execute 3 people to save the world, and it's cute.
Basically, we need to deliver 3 sacrifices by Mamus. That's May Day to you, or else it's burning skies time.
The relationship between the protagonist and her demon BF works, they have chemistry, it's funny, you actually care about the characters, and perhaps most importantly, it's like shockingly cool message-wise. The third person Nita picks to sacrifice is a Tory politician, and the show makes 2 things clear. First, the Tories are psychotic fascist weirdos.
You only have to look around to see it. Rubbish in the streets, crime on the rise, the character of your neighborhood under threat.
In one scene, a woman is talking to the politician about how she would rather vote for the more racist candidate.
I hope I have your vote this week.
Afraid not. National Front for me.
Oh, why is that?
Don't like how things are changing around here.
And he's like, you know what I stand for. You know we're the same guy.
But they won't get elected.
They might.
They're too overt. People feel it's, bad manners. You know why I don't print "Stop Immigration" in gigantic letters on my campaign literature? Because look at me. Look at me. You know what I stand for.
And how great is that? Come on. Second, that we can justifiably kill those conservative politicians. Nita is never judged for her choices. It's framed as exclusively a good thing by the episode. It's just pretty straightforwardly saying, it's rad to kill this guy. And I love that. That's wonderful.
I think the episode as a whole is about this feeling of disposability, not entirely unlike Beyond the Sea, though infinitely better.
Nita, a British Indian woman living in the 70s, occupies a world that is actively hostile to her existence, that sees her as an outsider, places her at the bottom.
I understand you're in the habit of eating your lunch in the stockroom. Oh, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Everybody does it, we don't mind. But it's what you're eating. You see, most people's food, normal food, it doesn't tend to linger.
She is essentially asked by this demon to be part of that system. Just kill 3 people. It's worth it for the greater good necessary to save the world. Treat their lives as disposable in the same way you are treated as disposable. But she refuses. In the end, the only man she is willing to kill is the one who upholds this perverse logic. She fails at this task. The world ends. It's hard to kill fascists. But there's something redemptive in her failure. As she walks away from the earth with her demon lover, I feel the episode is suggesting that perhaps the world as we know it must end. That metaphorical hellfire is a justified response to an apathetic and bigoted society. And that's some out there provocative shit, right? I'm impressed by Charlie Brooker's willingness to go that far, especially considering how unpointed and dull the rest of the season is.
So let's talk about Mazey Day, one of the stupidest episodes I've ever seen of anything in my life. Truly bottom of the barrel Black Mirror, in my opinion.
It's about a paparazzi, Bo, who spends the entire episode trying to take a picture of a celebrity, Mazey Day. The story crawls at a snail's pace as you watch a woman you don't care about chase after another woman you don't care about. It's self-indulgent, but indulgent of what, I cannot say.
The whole episode feels like it's leading up to some kind of twist. What's the nature of this celebrity they want a picture of? What happened to her? But the conclusion here is just another nasty spit in my face.
She's a werewolf. She is a werewolf lady. That's the twist, if you want to call it that. The woman is a werewolf.
So, I genuinely believe that the point of this episode is to be as dumb as humanly possible.
As you step into it, you might think it will be about voyeurism and the paparazzi, that it will have something to say about media and the way we consume other people's lives as entertainment.
Can I talk to you? You have an agency? I can pay. For those pictures. $500? You're killing me.
After all, the first season episode White Bear was about these themes, and it was great. But this episode is not like that. The whole thing has nothing to say besides, I guess, the completely lifeless theme that the paparazzi are bad, and it culminates in the completely meaningless twist that there's a werewolf.
And maybe I would be impressed by that. I don't mind meaningless entertainment, but this isn't entertaining. It's bad and it's boring, and I hate it.
Also, let me talk about the ending. After Bo finds Mazey, the wolf celeb starts crying about how she wants to die because of her wolf pains. But then Bo hands her a gun and Mazey urges her to take a sweet pic before shooting herself. Now, I can understand why Bo ended up taking this picture. She's a merciless paparazzi, and any sense of compassion she might have doesn't really mean anything in the end. That makes sense.
But why is Mazey cool with it? Why does she encourage the picture? What human in a million years would ever act like this? And what aspect of her character suggests that it would be her reaction?
There is no answer to any of these questions. The ending is just a meaningless, pointless twist of the knife. It's a terrible conclusion to a terrible episode, and while I think there may be wiggle room on some of the other episodes, I will not respect the Mazey Day apologists in my comment section. The episode is bad.
Oh, how nice it is to be at the old stone wall. Anyway, let's talk about a good episode of the 6th season of Black Mirror, Joan is Awful.
The episode is about a woman, Joan, who finds that her life is being procedurally made into a television show by an AI, and she has to figure out how to stop all that from happening. I like Joan is Awful. It's genuinely funny and well acted, and I think surprisingly clever. The episode is, at every level, concerned with the concept of authorship. In a literal sense, it worries about who gets to author which works, what kinds of information should technology have access to, and what kinds of media should it get to create with that access. On a figurative level, it's worried about the authorship we have over our lives. Are we losing something of ourselves, our agency, to the algorithms that shape us?
So maybe now, do you feel...
Yeah, like the main character in my own life? Yeah, I think I do.
This all works, I think. It's a simple theme, but it's told elegantly. The thing about Joan is Awful, though, what you could call either its best or its worst quality, is that when you watch it, it kind of feels empty. Like it's not really trying to say much of anything.
And this is largely because so much of the episode makes so little sense, because it seems to obey a meaningless cartoon logic.
There is, for example, no way that the terms of service on your iPhone contract could possibly legally allow Apple to make an AI-generated show of your life.
They're using me, so... And you assign them the right to exploit all of that. What? When? Terms and conditions.
It's literally the logic of an episode of South Park.
Their lips will be removed, and they will be sewn together, mouth to anus.
What?
You agreed to this, mouth to anus, so that the feces from the gastral tract from one will enter the mouth of the little boy, and he agreed this was okay.
Yet it's treated here as such a solid, binding contract that there's no reason why anyone would want to take it to court. There is no public outcry to this streaming service stealing someone's life to make a TV show, where in the real world there would be 1,000 breathless think pieces about it. People would be very mad. And then there's just the stuff that feels silly. The entire episode is played almost exclusively for laughs, and there's a gag in the middle where the protagonist takes a shit in a church to get the show to stop. And this scheme just makes no sense on its face, right?
I don't dislike any of this stuff, but I'm not trying to point out plot holes or whatever. The episode is knowingly goofy and surreal, and that's fine. It is funny.
But part of me can't help but wish for more from it. The concept of the episode is clever. I like the way it plays with AI. I like the idea of a procedural procedurally generated reality show. But in the end, none of it feels meaty or substantial. It doesn't have that intense Black Mirror sensibility that got me interested in the show years ago.
Here's the thing. If I saw this episode in isolation, I would think it was quite good. But for me, it comes to represent something we've come to see over and over in this video.
Black Mirror doesn't feel like it cares anymore. It doesn't feel like it wants to be insightful or clever. It doesn't feel interested in pursuing its own ideas.
And sometimes that works, as is the case for this episode, but usually it sucks. Usually it makes for boring, safe-feeling TV. Okay.
Welcome to the afterlife. Just kidding, you're not dead. But you absolutely could be soon if you don't buy my streaming service Nebula for less than $15 a month. Every month for the foreseeable future, I'll be releasing a little bonus video on Nebula. I have a bunch up already, and for this month, I'm gonna release a video about some Anna Kasparian Vosh-related internet discourse that I just thought was interesting. The video is less dramatic than it sounds, though, honestly. I wouldn't get your drama hopes up. Anyway, there's more on Nebula than just me, of course. Lindsay Ellis exclusively releases videos on there, which is super fun. PhilosophyTube has her play and an exclusive documentary on there. Jacob Geller makes commentary videos for the platform. You know, lots of good stuff. Also, while you can get the pleb deal, Nebula, for $15 a month, starting today, you can also get a lifetime subscription for $300. I know what you're thinking. That seems like a lot of money, but that's just your lack of grind set speaking, and I won't elaborate further. But for real, any kind of subscription to Nebula for the year or for your life is a great way to support the channel, and I think a lot of people are happy with what they get. If you're interested, check out the link in the description. So that's the end of the video. That's all I had to say about anything. I hope you liked it. It was a fun video for me to make. And if you did like it, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and give me money on Patreon if you like. That's the other way to access my bonus videos. On that note, now it's time for my Patreon question of the video. Mo asks, have you ever thought about writing a book? Every day of my life, I think about writing a book. Every day, every second of my life, I think about writing a dumb fucking book. The problem is, I have no idea about what book I would write. I don't have a clue what to write a book about. But I do want to have written a book. I would like for people to say, Big Joel, humble author. On my epitaph, I would like it to say, book writer, but I don't have a book in me. I worry. But yes, I would like to write a book. I would like that. Thanks for supporting my channel. Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you next time. Bye.